Welcome all to BFantasyFootball. I'm your host, Derek, and this is my brother and my co-host, Marcel. Today we're previewing Week 3 of the NFL and what we think may happen. So first we're going to go over what happened on Thursday night's game between the Miami Dolphins and the Jaguars. It was an interesting game, Mark. What did you come away with it?
I came away with Myles Gaskins now the guy in the backfield for the Miami Dolphins. That being said, I'm still hesitant in standard leagues to start him, but in half point PPR and PPR, I think he's a flex start week in and week out just on a touch base scenario because he's averaging 5 receptions, not 5 targets, 5 receptions per game. So in half point PPR, you're talking about 2.5 points of a floor, and PPR talking about a 5-point floor. That's not yards included. He's yet to get a touchdown on the year. Last game, he had 27 touches. 27 touches, 0 touchdowns for a running back is very out of the ordinary. So I can see him regressing to the means. And that being said, I'm expecting a touchdown or 2 over the next 2 weeks. I'm expecting him to start getting those goal line carries because, Jordan Howard has 16 rushing attempts, 12 total rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. I think Myles Gaskins can do that. I know he's small, 200 pounds, 5'10". He's not a big body, but I think he can get the job done. If Jordan Howard can average 0.75 of a yard and still have the job, then I think Myles Gaskins should get that job. Looking on the other side of the ball, James Robinson. I know my Twitter feed has been blowing up on James Robinson. Oh, he's worth a first-round pick in Dynasty, or he's a top 12 player rest of the season in redraft. Slow the ball for sure. I had him ranked at 18 this week. Obviously, with 30 points scored in the week, he's going to finish higher than running back 18 on the week. But one of his touchdowns should have been a passing touchdown on the play before. That's just what it is. So he probably comes away with a touchdown less on that game. But going forward, he's an RB2 till he proves otherwise. So he's a top 24 till he proves otherwise. But he's not a top 12 rest of the season in my opinion. He did lead the team in receptions last week, but Chark was out. And then Minshew did spread the ball around for his receivers. He targeted pretty much everyone 4 to 6 times. Just James Robinson caught all 6 of his targets. So that's my point on the wide receivers. Jacksonville, I'm not touching anyone outside of Chark and Keelan Cole for receivers. And then I know Chark was injured for that game, but anyway. And then Miami, I'm not touching anyone other than Parker. And I know Preston Williams is the one that came away with the touchdown this week. But to me, Preston Williams is still he's outside my top 40 probably on a weekly basis for wide receivers. He's in my top, he's a wide receiver 4 to me on a week in, week out basis. Great talent, and Parker has been hampered with that hamstring injury. So if he misses a game, then obviously Preston Williams bumps up. So I'm rostering him. Then Mike Gesicki, full stream ahead. Start him every game. What about you?
Yeah, I came away with a lot of different things. The main reason I was worried for the Jaguars this week was because of their center being out. And that is quite a hit. That is your main focus of your O-line, right? He's O-line. So with him out and the backup not being as highly rated, it does hurt because they got a lot of pressure on Minshew. And you saw that's kind of what happens. Without his star wide receiver Chark there as well to help save him, he was in a pickle. He couldn't do anything. So that's another reason probably they ran more with Robinson, seeing that Minshew was just getting too much pressure, so they had to take the pressure off by making Robinson even do some runs, whether they're going to only get a couple yards or if they're going to get 10 because he broke a tackle and kept going, which he has broken quite a few tackles this year. When it comes to Myles Gaskin, he is only worrisome because he had a lot of touches this week as well, but this was also a game they were leading, and I'm not sure how many times the Miami Dolphins are leading. He is good in maybe a flex spot just because he had those targets, right? So that is helpful. But if the Miami Dolphins wide receiver core keeps getting more powerful, you're starting to wonder how much he will see, how many more targets you'll see, because Mike Gesicki's starting to come on. Isaiah Ford, I know he's more of a sleeper or deeper person, deeper leagues, but he's seen quite a few targets. And Preston Williams, he is coming back from a torn ACL last year. And a lot of times that first, especially the first few games when coming back from a torn ACL, even a year after, they tend to be a little bit slower of a player still, still getting back into the rhythm of the game and all that stuff. And so I could see them coming back to start taking some targets away from Myles Gaskin. But he is the running back to own there, if any. Only as a flex. I wouldn't want to start them if I didn't have to. When it comes to Jordan Howard, I think we statted out at one point. I think over 16 game sample, he'll have like 80 yards or something like that and 16 touchdowns on the year. Yeah. When you think about that, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And I kind of wish it keeps going just because it'd be such a cool stat to see at the end of the year. But I would feel bad for Myles Gaskin if that's the case. And Keelan Cole, you could see, getting the top coverage definitely hurt him. But he was getting more targets. But it's just a bad week for Jaguars.
Well, they also
other than their running back.
Yeah, they put Keelan Cole in a different role in that game because, I don't know if you've watched any of the highlights or any of the games for the Jaguars, but he's more of your underneath, middle of the field type guy, kind of gets those short passes, and his yards per catch were up over 1.5 yards. He was playing more of the outside role where DJ Chark typically plays, and they had Laviska play more of that role that Keelan Cole was playing the 2 weeks prior, so that was different on him too.
No, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll start looking into Sunday games. So start Sunday noon games. We have the Chicago Bears against the Atlanta Falcons. The average spread is 3.5 for Atlanta Falcons and minus. So they are expected to win by 3.5 points. The over-under is 48, so it isn't expecting to be a very high-scoring game, but a little bit. I mean, more than the standard, the average, but not by much. What's good about the Bears is that they have David Montgomery doing pretty good this year. I'd be curious to see if you can keep that up. Mitch Trubisky is doing pretty good this year, so maybe it's all about some schemes that they've been playing and keeping it simple. But for Mitch Trubisky, I wouldn't play him unless you're in a 2 QB league or Superflex. And when it comes to David Montgomery, he's kind of scary only in the sense that if Atlanta Falcons get up by so much, what happens to his role? Because we've never really seen them get too far behind for too long. So if they get way behind by 2 scores, are they going to start seeing a lot of Tariq Cohen? We don't know, especially where they just gave Cohen the money. We don't know what's going to happen there. Allen Robinson, he's a must start. Anthony Miller, he's only worrisome just because of what that second game looked like. But I mean, I'm pretty sure he was battling a shoulder injury again this offseason. So I'm curious if that's still hampering him at all as well. And maybe that's why that second week he just looked bad. I mean, he had a chance for a good touchdown, but he missed it. Darnell Mooney, the rookie, he's looking pretty good. He's getting he got 6 targets for 6 receptions on the year. But you can't start him unless you're in a really deep league or crazy desperate. When it comes to the Bears, I wouldn't touch him. Unless Julio is out, then I'd be a little more tempted. But other than that, I wouldn't touch him. Because if Julio's out, then I could see Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan can have these games where he becomes like his nickname, Matty Ice, even though I know that's not what it's for, but he just all of a sudden becomes terrible. So I could see if Julio's out, maybe the Bears defense does do that to him. Matt Ryan, I think he's going to probably be fine, especially if Julio's in. He's a must start. Todd Gurley, he gets some goal line carries sometimes, but that's really about it. He's lost his explosiveness, and he's not getting the targets they used to get when he was on the Rams. So that's what kind of worries us. I mean, he's got 117 rushing yards on the year, but two receptions on the year. I mean, that's bad for a Todd Gurley, who was typically used to be a good pass catching running back. So Julio Jones, he's still questionable. There is a pretty good chance he might be out, so do keep that in mind. At least it's a Sunday noon game, so you have plenty of time to pivot. Calvin Ridley must start, no questions. Russell Gage, he's a flex-worthy start, especially if Julio's out. But I'd consider him in most lineups. Hayden Hurst, same thing. I mean, if Julio's out, Matt Ryan's going to throw to someone. So, and Falcons defense, I actually think that they're a good play this week because Mitch Trubisky, if they get up on Mitch Trubisky, he's going to start throwing, and we know what Mitch Trubisky likes to do when he throws too much. He likes to get picked off. He likes to make mistakes. So, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that was a good take to start. I do want to just throw a question out on you.
Yep.
If I had to say one of the running backs in the Chicago backfield is out targeting the other one by double, who do you think has more targets?
I would have to say it's probably David Montgomery, but that's also because he's been playing more of the lead role and they haven't been playing from behind as much. So he's in more offensive snaps, I believe, than Tariq Cohen. But yeah, I agree he might be seeing them right now, but I'm curious to see what happens if they get behind by 2 scores for a long period of time. That's what I'm concerned. Yeah.
Week 1, David Montgomery was outsnapped by Tariq Cohen and still had more targets.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm just saying, and David Montgomery is averaging 12.5 yards per catch. Tariq Cohen is averaging 7.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe there's starting to be a shift there where David Montgomery might become a 3-down back, and Tariq Cohen only comes in for a quick rest on Montgomery, or comes in to be a slot wide receiver at times in certain plays, or two back plays. So I'm starting to get intrigued on David Montgomery. I'm not high on him. I have him running back 19 on the week, so I'm not crazy high on him. Allen Robinson is my wide receiver 2 on the week.
Wow.
So that could be surprising. Don't know how the stats worked out, but he's catching a touchdown from what the stats said, and he's having a really good game.
If someone wants him, they're going to trade this week for him before the blowout.
Yeah, well, he had a really good week 1 too, so I mean,
he's got 100. He only has 100 yards on the season.
Yeah,
and no touchdowns. So he must have had one good week and one crappy week. If that's the case.
Yeah, he had 75 yards and 5 catches week 1, but so that's where I am with Allen Robinson. On the other side of the ball, I statted out Julio Jones as injured and not playing. Now, I expect Julio Jones to be legit a game-time decision, not morning of, legit game-time decision. Cleats are on, helmets on, warming up with the team, and then saying, yeah, I can go or yeah, I can't go. If he plays, I don't have him statted out for high. So I put him in my rankings as 2 catches for 23 yards. That's all I have, just so I could share the rest of the pie elsewhere. And that brought Calvin Ridley to my wide receiver 4 on the week. So we're talking a wide receiver battle here for the wide receiver 1 of the week. And then Russell Gage came in at wide receiver 35. So to me, that's a wide receiver 3. And then Anthony Miller came in at wide receiver 37.
Okay, yeah.
So, actually, sorry, Russell Gage is 34. So, not too bad there. So, yeah, I do like a lot of the high-end fantasy pieces in this game. I have Matt Ryan as my quarterback 9 on the week, and I have Trubisky as quarterback 20. So, I'm playing Matt Ryan till he gives me a reason not to. I know that Julio might be a reason not to, but Hayden Hurst has proven to me better than Austin Hooper ever was. Even though Austin Hooper was tight end 1 last year, the whole start of the season and everything else, I think on a skill and athletic basis, Hayden Hurst is better to me, personally.
Yeah, Austin Hooper, his main skill was just being that big guy that can catch.
Oh, yeah.
And he wasn't like a great separator or nothing, but he was like, if you throw me the ball, I'm going to wrestle the other guy and get it. He's really good at that contested catch. But other than that, he wouldn't separate. He was just good at giving Matt Ryan that last second dump off, basically.
Exactly. He literally said, Matt Ryan, hey, I'm bigger. Just throw me the ball. So,
exactly.
Anyway, the intended line is 26-22 for the Falcons, and I'm on board with that because I have them winning 27-20. So that's just my line personally. I see the Chicago Bears touchdown, 2 field goals. So that's where I'm at there. So then I think we're good there. Moving on to the Los Angeles Rams and the Buffalo Bills. 47.5 over under. Whew. The over might be kind of a play there. I don't know. I like the Rams and the Bills to score. I know they're both known as great defenses, but I think these offenses have just been pretty darn good. And I think I'm kind of taking the over. So the intended point total, if I had to calculate that quick, with 25-22 for Buffalo. Or no, for the Rams. Rams are going to win by 3. Okay. Yeah, I don't know who I'd take in this game personally. If it's in Buffalo, but I mean, do they have a crowd this week? Are they allowed a crowd?
I actually didn't look up if they had a crowd or not.
So
I think it's pretty limited if they do, and they're not going to have that big crowd in the parking lot like they used to. There's not going to be burning tables getting smashed, as we know the Bills Mafia likes to do.
Yeah, honestly. I guess I'm going to go with the Rams in this game, personally, and here's why. The Buffalo Bills played Miami last week, and that was much closer than people expected. I think the Bills are kind of getting too cute with the football right now. So that's kind of why Los Angeles Rams they have their game plan. They're executing it well so far this season. So I like the Rams to take this win. When I talk about the skill positions and where I have players ranked this week, Jared Goff comes in as my quarterback 21, so you're not starting him. And then Josh Allen comes in at quarterback 7, so that's a full start there. Aaron Donald could be a problem, but with a mobile quarterback, they can get away from him pretty well. So I don't know. I'm not too worried about that. I like the corner shutting down guys like Stephon Diggs and those guys. So Josh Allen's still going to be a play with his legs. Moving on to the wide receivers in this game. I'm trying to find Robert Woods, 14, Cooper Kupp, 22, and Stephon Diggs, 18. So those are the notable ones. Actually, John Brown came in at 38, so that's not too bad for him. My running backs, I have Darrell Henderson at 28 and Malcolm Brown at 35. So, I think you can start. Darrell Henderson just fell there because I feel like everybody else I have ahead of him have a higher chance of doing better. But I still see Darrell Henderson, 28, being his floor. He's going to finish good chances he finishes higher than that. Somebody else is going to have a bad game. And then on the other side of the ball, Devin Singletary week. I have him at running back 20, and that's his absolute floor. He could have a really good game here. So I'm excited to see him in the role he was drafted to be. And last year, Frank Gore took that away, and his injury took him away. And so far, Zach Moss has been taking it away from him. So I'm excited to see Devin Singletary in a full role. So that's my take there. The tight ends, I have Higbee in at tight end 3 on the week. He earned it last week, and 3 catches, 3 touchdowns. You know where he's going. You know who he is. So I have him, tight end 3, and then the other side of the ball, not in my top 18. How about you?
Yeah, with Dawson Knox out for the tight end position and Zach Moss out, that starts to hurt them a little bit just because, you don't have that regular chemistry you'd usually have. Glad that Devin Singletary's there and has been playing longer with them. So that's going to be a great fill-in. But there is quite a few injuries on the defensive side for Bill, so you should have to monitor them. And Edmonds and Milano, there's people to keep an eye out on. If they're injured and out, I would definitely take the Rams. And with Deshaun Phillips out, that's another one that is starting to get concerning. When it comes to the Rams, they have Akers out with his rib cartilage. And then Malcolm Brown, he is playing, but he has come back with a fractured pinky, so I would be concerned a little bit more about ball grip. So I could see them playing Darrell Henderson, especially more around the goal line. And the thing about Darrell Henderson is he is a very explosive type player. He can find those big home runs, and the Bills have been letting that happening a lot to them. So there could be a good matchup where, you might watch Darrell Henderson most of the game and see nothing really happen, and all of a sudden he just breaks out for a huge one. So that is something to kind of notice. He has a decent floor, but his boom can be quite explosive. So that is something I'm going to keep in mind. Diggs, I'd be curious to see what happens for Stephon Diggs. He should have himself a decent game, but he will be facing top corner, and we'll have to see how Josh Allen reacts with the a more solid defense finally this week. That's really going to be getting pressure on him. He's going to be rolling out a lot, and there's a good chance maybe Cole Beasley, is he in this week?
Yeah.
Why do I think he might be? Okay.
as far
Okay,
as I know.
for some reason I thought he might have been injured, but I could see him getting a lot of targets because all of a sudden Josh Allen rolls out, the other two are covered, and he just dumps it down because he's in a little more of a panic mode. But I mean, Josh Allen's been doing great this year, so we might not see that. We might actually see him just handle that pressure and give lasers downfield, and Stephon Diggs and John Brown benefiting from that. Especially maybe John Brown because he will have the second coverage. Although I think he is a little injured this week, but he's supposed to be good to go for the game. But maybe it'll hamper him a little bit. I wouldn't be too concerned, just considering he's not a questionable up to the game, kind of like Julio is. Because Julio, even the coach came out and said he is questionable right till game time, and he'll be doing the practice before it to really know whether he's going to be in or out. So for me, I think the Rams are probably going to win as well, unless those Bills injuries on the defensive side are all in and healthy. Other than that, I could just see them smashing through. Although Goff has been known to, when he gets off by a good defense, he's been off as well. But Tyler Higbee will likely spell him from that danger. So, any more comments about that game?
Nope.
Okay, we're moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals at the Philadelphia Eagles. The over-under is 46.5, and the projection is that the Eagles will win by 6.5. So I'm going to touch on this. Seems like a trap game to me.
Ooh, is it ever?
The Eagles winning by 6.5 points seems like too much. Like, I don't think maybe the Bengals will necessarily win for sure, but I think they can cover the number at the very least, especially with Jalen Reagor out, and Rudy Ford is also has a groin injury, and then Fletcher Cox has an injury of some sort, which that's not great for them. I mean, we lost Uzama, but Drew Sample seemed to, for the Bengals, and they seem to just keep going with Drew Sample. He spelled him out well. He did well in his short time in the other game against the Browns. So I can see the Bengals. They may not beat them, but in my opinion, they'll definitely cover the number. I think Burrows is going to have actually a pretty good week. It's not like the other 2 weeks where he had a lot of pressure on him. He's going to have a little more time to do stuff. And I think he'll have a decent one. And maybe even Joe Mixon will also benefit from that, is he'll finally have more time to move the ball, better play ideas. Joe Burrow's not just kind of throwing in a panic as much as he was the last 2 weeks. Especially, I mean, he's a rookie. He's still getting his feet underneath of him, especially with the COVID offseason that we had. AJ Green and Tyler Boyd, they're both interesting because AJ Green's had tons of targets and done little with them, and Tyler Boyd has not many targets compared to AJ Green, and has done well with them. So we may see a flip there this week. We'll see. T. Higgins, he's no more than a super deep flex start. Drew Sample, I would start him in most leagues. He's probably a low-end tight end one to me just because of volume. I'm not sure if he will get a touchdown or anything like that, but if he can get you 50 yards, you're not going to go home complaining. On the other side, you have Carson Wentz, which has looked terrible this year, but maybe that's all the pressure he's seen, and maybe with the Bengals, this could be a get-right game for him, just kind of like it kind of is for Burrows. Is they both have a chance to not have such a strong defense against them, so hopefully we can see a bounce back from him because he's looking pretty poor so far this year, but he has had that great talent before, and you can't just lose that most times. Miles Sanders, they did the right thing in week 1 to let him rest because he is now definitely back and running like a madman out there. So it will be nice to see him run against the Bengals all over them, especially as we saw what happened to the Browns the week before. So he's one of my top players for running back. I would really want to play him. Deshaun Jackson is one of the only wide receivers that you might want to play on them, especially with Jalen Reagor gone to the IR. It's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Yep. So and it might even be more. I mean, some people even said 8 to 10 just because he has that pinky injury or that finger injury, plus he has the shoulder injury as well. So battling 2 injuries, they say it's going to be a while likely before he comes back as a rookie. But they're tight ends. I mean, you have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. So that's where I guess all the pass catching is going. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're both a start in my opinion. I don't know which one is going to do better because it's hard to say who sees the best targets and win. And the defense, I just wouldn't touch on either side. How about you?
So in my rankings, I have the quarterbacks back-to-back. Joe Burrow at 17, Carson Wentz at 18. So to me, it's like, this is a battle of the quarterbacks. Like, you're outside the top 12 quarterbacks. This is a battle who can try to fight for a top 12 place. I have Cincinnati covering the spread, but I don't know who I have winning. Like, I think it's going to come down to a field goal in this game. I might take the over if we're talking about over-under, just because I don't think these defenses are good enough for the caliber of the quarterbacks. I do think it's a get-right game for Carson Wentz. I really do. Even though he doesn't have the targets out there, I think, and my rankings speak, or I don't want to say speak for themselves, but I have Miles Sanders in at running back 6, just because I think he's going to have 5-6 receptions. He's going to have 20-plus carries. Like, the guy's going to have some workload to him. I have Deshaun Jackson at wide receiver 28, just because this is the softest corners he's faced this season. So I think his speed, his ability to separate himself is going to show much better this game. Because they played the Rams last week, and Jalen Ramsey just absolutely locked him up, so he couldn't do anything there. I have Joe Mixon still running back 1 at running back 11. I'm just behind Josh Jacobs. So both these running backs are in the position to have a great game. So Tyler Boyd, wide receiver 24, so top 2 wide receiver. So to me, he's a must start. I now have Tyler Boyd ahead of AJ Green for the first time this year, so that's pretty interesting. I don't know what to do with AJ Green in my rankings as of yet, which is the sad part. Right now, I know it sounds bad, but I have him as wide receiver 40.
Wow.
And anywhere else I'm looking is he's just not a wide receiver 40 anyone else. So, I mean, that's just what my stats brought out, so we're going to see what happens. I'm excited.
Yeah, you clearly think he's more cooked than just chipping off the rust from not playing for almost 2 years, plus only starting his first full practice the week before NFL. So you obviously just think he's cooked. You don't think it's just rust. Or at least your opinion is that.
Yeah, exactly. AJ Green was never, I'm going to just flat out beat you with speed. He was definitely above par route runner, but he's also your Julio Jones who just says, I am more talented than you. I'm going to go catch this ball. And I don't think he has that explosiveness to get up and go get it, to dive out for the ball and grab it. I saw multiple times last week where the corners were just hugging his hips and he could not separate himself. And then I think I spoke on this on the last podcast. Tyler Boyd started to show, like, you can trust me, Joe Burrow. Like, throw me the darn ball and I'm going to go grab it and we're going to make plays. Like, he had a beautiful catch in the end zone, which is going to be on the top 50 plays at the end of the season for best touchdowns in the NFL. So that was great there. So that's really, I talked about both sides of the wide receivers, running backs, good tight ends. I have Zach Ertz at 6 and Goddard at 11. So they're both top 12 tight ends this week, in my opinion. And then Drew Sample fell to 16. I
guess there's just so many good tight ends this year.
Exactly. Like, I'm like, Drew Sample should not be tight end 16. Like, what am I doing? I look ahead of him, Noah Fant. Well, okay, Cortland Sutton's gone. Like, okay. Okay, next, Dalton Schultz literally had 8 catches last week. Okay. Jared Cook catches a touchdown every week. Next, Mo Alley Cox. Well, he's huge. Dallas Goedert, 11. Then Evan Ingram, Mike Gesicki, Darren Waller, Hayden Hurst. So, like, the list keeps on going. I'm just like, I don't have anyone to put him ahead of. And so, yeah, I mean, I still think if he's your only tight end, play him. I feel very safe playing him. Like, he might finish as tight end 16, but that might be the difference of 5 yards or 1 catch. So I'm not worried there. The implied point total is 27-20 for the Eagles, and I just see Cincinnati covering that spread. Okay, moving on to the next game. This is the game I'm excited to see too. This is going to be on my TV for sure. Washington football team against the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. Lick your chops, because Baker Mayfield. I'm ready. I'm ready to see if this guy can play, because he's going to get pressure. Pressure's coming at him this week. I expect them to run the ball a lot. I expect Kareem Hunt to be heavily involved in this game on the outside, trying to get away from that D-line of the Washington football team. So yeah, I definitely have Kareem Hunt up there. I have him as he's my running back 23. I know that's still low for Kareem Hunt, but when they get close to the goal line, it's so hard to say what side the ball is going to go. And then I have Nick Chubb at 13. So they're both running backs too. I mean, either of them on any week can finish as a top 5 running back, as we saw last week. I mean, it's the realm of possibilities always there, so they have to be in your lineup. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Kareem Hunt overtake Nick Chubb this week, just in the fact that I believe this game's going to be slightly closer than people expect. What did we say the line was here? The line is 25-18 in favor of the Browns. So I think, yeah, that's definitely going to be closer. This game's going to be a competitive game. This is going to be a physical game. So I'm very excited now. If I talk about my rankings, I have Dwayne Haskins at 29. That's not good. Just because he's still learning the game of the NFL. He's still making mistakes. He's slow on picks or slow on reads. But what I noticed last game, their only drives that were successful, he threw to Terry McLaurin multiple times on those drives. And I'm hoping they're just going to say, okay, Terry McLaurin is our DeAndre Hopkins. I know we might have other weapons in the offense with Logan Thomas, Sims, and Antonio Gibson out of the backfield. But every time you throw the ball, why not throw to your best wide receiver? They started to throw just simple slants to Terry McLaurin, 5 yards out. He'd catch it and take off for 15 to 20 yards. Why not do that time and time again until they start doubling him, then open up the field and spread the ball? So I'm hoping the team in Washington really notices that. Feed Terry McLaurin the ball till it don't work no more. I don't care if it's predictable to the defense. I don't care. Feed him the ball. That being said, Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 12. He's a wide receiver 1 this week, which is great on his part. Any of the other wide receivers there, I'm not in. Antonio Gibson, running back 22, so one ahead Kareem Hunt. Probably won't finish ahead of Kareem Hunt, but he's getting better. He's second in evaded tackles in the league, so that's on a per carry basis, he's number 1. So that is a very telling stat to the future of him in this league and for the future of this season alone. So I would really try to acquire him in Dynasty if you can, if he's still kind of on that borderline cheap. I don't see them going out and getting a running back next year in the draft because they've wasted pick after pick after pick after pick. If we're talking their picks lately, they've had Darius Geis, who... yeah, that didn't work out. We're not going to get into that. Then they have Bryce Love, which I still believe Bryce Love is an excellent talent. He won the Junior Olympics for running. He's fast. And then they have Antonio Gibson. So they don't need to go anywhere else. And then they still have Payne Barber, J.D. McKissick. They have the backfield locked down. So especially in Dynasty, I'm going out. I'm trying to acquire Antonio Gibson right now. I'm still pending on a trade. I offered 2 second-round picks for Antonio Gibson. Probably won't happen, but I threw it out there. And then for the tight ends, Austin Hooper, he's outside of my top 18. I am completely done on him until he tells me otherwise, as I mentioned in the last podcast. And then Logan Thomas comes in at tight end 18, which is his absolute floor. I don't know if you saw last week, but he played more snaps lined up as a wide receiver than he did as a tight end by a significant amount. So that's interesting to see. It's just they don't have any other talents. They don't have a third wide receiver there. And then to finish off on my rankings, quarterback, I have Baker Mayfield at 23. So this is not a good game for the quarterbacks, more of a game for the running backs, as I think it's going to be a grind-out physical game, run the ball, pound the ball, and we'll see who comes out ahead. I have the Browns winning the game, but the Washington football team, again, covering the spread.
Yeah, that's a lot you said there, of course, because there is a lot to say about this game. I mean, one of the things I do worry about is the right guard for Washington is out this week, and he is going to be for 3 to 5 weeks. And the guy behind him isn't that great, and even after that, they don't have almost anyone else. So even rest time, they'll have very little. So that does concern me big time. Yes, that's going to be difficult to overcome is what happens to the O-line, right? Is how, I'm scared to death for Dwayne Haskins this week because the Browns have a pretty damn good D-line and their O-line for Washington is smashed. So I do believe the Browns are going to win just almost solely on that reason of just so much pressure at quarterback. And it's not like their running back is elite yet. I mean, he is pretty good. He is a rookie, though, and he's still learning to position. He's got to learn to know the things instead of just trying to memorize what he's supposed to run. So just that reason alone that's why I'm going to take the Browns to win. Covering a number, that's difficult, but I think they could probably do it just because they have two great running backs, which will hopefully, well, I don't know, because that's difficult. Because when I look at the D-line for the Washington, they're going to get a lot of pressure on Baker, and that's really going to help us see what is Baker made out of. And even the coaching staff and the play calls. Are they going to let him roll out and be able to do quick dump-offs and get the running backs going, or are they just going to try to let him play and just get hit constantly and ruin his mojo? Like, he's the type of player that once he gets going, he can get hot. But once he starts messing up, it's scary. It's not great. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to touch any quarterback in this. And even makes the wide receivers scary. Like, even with Scorin McLaurin, wide receiver Terry McLaurin there, if they do like you say and actually learn to use him better for Dwayne Haskins' sake, he might do all right. But other than that, if they try to do big bombs downfield, Haskins gonna be on his bum the whole entire time while Terry's just waiting there for the ball all 100% clear, sure, but the ball's never coming. So that is what I'm concerned. I would probably want to play each defense. They both have a lot of pressure going in against questionable O-lines. Now, of course, Brown's O-line is going to probably get better as the season goes, but that D-line in Washington is pretty scary with that new addition as well, that rookie there, I forget his name. So, yeah, when it comes to tight ends, yeah, Logan Thomas I would play. But like you said, I would play Drew Sample and Mac, Mo Alley-Cox and all them over him. But he's still there as, he gets targets. So what can you say? It might end up all right. Looking into the next game is the Tennessee Titans at Minnesota Vikings. So the over-under is 47.5. The point total says that the Titans will win by 2.5 points. So that's probably a smash to me. I can't see how the Titans lose in this game unless something crazy happens to the Vikings. I mean, they have a good coaching staff and all that stuff. And usually a good coaching staff, when they've been losing a couple weeks, they usually turn it around. So could this be a trap where all of a sudden the Vikings do start to do good? I would almost venture to say no, just because the Titans are crazy efficient with their moves, and they have Derrick Henry, who's just going to run all over the Vikings. They lost Anthony Barr, the Vikings did, and so I can't see how Derrick Henry doesn't just hit any over and just smash through the entire thing if they use him properly and they use him. Without A.J. Brown in, that might cause them to do heavier boxes, but maybe Corey Davis and Adam Humphries can give some room. And of course, the tight end, Jonnu Smith, they all are questionable plays. Since A.J. Brown's out, I would definitely play Corey Davis as a fringe wide receiver 2, more wide receiver 3. Jonnu Smith, no questions. I mean, he's probably a top 5 tight end for most people. On the other side of the ball, you have a very, very limited route tree. You have Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, and Adam Thielen. I don't know if there's anyone else who'd want to play on that team. So you can try to start them. I wouldn't start Kirk Cousins, of course, but Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen, you just don't know what's going to happen. They could go great or bad. They're very boom bust, in my opinion. I would be very scared to play them just for that reason alone. But I mean, you can't not start Cook, and same thing with Thielen. What's your thoughts?
100% agree. It's funny when you gave your off-the-head rankings about Corey Davis, because you said he's a fringe wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I have him at wide receiver 33. So the first wide receiver in the wide receiver 3 category. So I mean, one player ahead of him could do bad, and then all of a sudden he's a wide receiver too. Or yeah. So oh sorry, that math didn't work out.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
math
would
didn't
say
work out at all.
33. That's near the back
Yeah,
end of a
he's
wide
he's
receiver
mid he's
3.
mid wide receiver 3. My apologies there,
Yeah.
everybody. Just the way I have the things lined up on my stat sheet. But then when we're talking about Derrick Henry, I have him as the one running back 1 on the week, and my biggest concern, but when I thought about the game script first, I was like, this is why Derrick Henry is going to get the ball. But my biggest concern is the Vikings keep this game close and stick around all game. That's not my concern for Derrick Henry. That's a good thing. But if at halftime, if the Titans are absolutely pounding the Vikings, start of the fourth quarter, let's say Tennessee's up 17, just because they shut down the 2 best players on the Vikings and they can't score and the Titans just walk the ball in a couple times. Do we see Darrington Evans in his first game? Do we see him get the whole fourth quarter with a comfortable lead to see what they have in their rookie against a softer defense, just to say, hey, I want to see? So that's my concern on Derrick Henry, is game script. Now I'm really hoping Minnesota can keep this close just for fantasy purposes. I do expect Tennessee to win. I do expect them to beat the 25-22 line. Like, I expect them to outscore the Vikings by at least 10 points. Like, I really see Tennessee winning this game. When we're talking about Adam Humphries, unfortunately, I have him outside my top 48. The RB on the other side of the ball, when we're talking about Dalvin Cook, I have him as running back 7, so that's not too bad at all. Yeah. Jonnu Smith, you said top 5, I have him at 4, so we're kind of on the same page there. And yeah, Vikings, I don't have any other tight ends inside until they prove otherwise. They're good. I believe in the talent, but the offense isn't running yet. So until that offense gets things going, don't see it happening. So yeah, that'll cover that game. Now we're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders, my boys. Great game. Patriots are expected to win by 7. So ouch, that hurts. Do I agree? Well, I thought the Saints would win by 7 last week, and that obviously didn't happen. I've seen 2 different NFL players tweet out the Raiders are legit. So it's like, are they legit? The first game against Carolina, I got very worried with their defense because I was just like, Carolina's not supposed to be a great team, and their defense allowed 30 points. Like, this isn't good. But that's because Carolina's offense was very good. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's good. Teddy Bridgewater's been playing really good. I don't want to get too much into the Carolina because we're going to get into them later, but that offense is a pretty darn good offense. So, and then you saw them shut down the Saints. I've been impressed, but it's still Bill Belichick. It's still New England. Here, I expect Stephon Gilmore to cover Darren Waller, as he wouldn't have covered Ruggs anyway. I think McCourty would have covered Ruggs, but I expect McCourty to cover Renfro now. So, as I tweeted, is this the Bryan Edwards breakout game where they're going to stack the box, cover Waller, cover Renfro? Bryan Edwards is going to have a lot of one-on-one coverage outside. It might not be his breakout game, but it's our chance to tell, and especially for dynasty purposes, is if this guy's a legit wide receiver for the NFL, if he's ready or if he's not. If he can't beat the third corner on New England on a consistent basis and have 4 to 5 catches for 50 to 70 yards, I might be all out on Bryan Edwards. Even coming into the season, I was all in. I know it's still New England's defense, but he's not going to see the strongest part. I don't have any of the wide receivers for Oakland in the top 48. I have Darren Waller as my tight end 8, and I know people are going to say, God, he's been getting everything. But Stephon Gilmore is going to be in his jockstrap. Same thing as, well, he is. Josh Jacobs, I have him as running back 10. So he's not way up there like he has been. So I don't see, and then Derek Carr, I mean, quarterback 26. So just my stat outs alone kind of tell the narrative of this game. I know my stat outs are more than apt to be wrong. Like, I'm not saying I'm all that for that. But and then Cam Newton comes in as quarterback 5. Then I have N'Keal Harry, which I think this is N'Keal Harry's game. I want to see Arnett crush N'Keal Harry because it'll prove something to me for my Raiders. But N'Keal Harry's a pretty big body, and yeah. And then I have Julian Edelman at 23. So this is going to be it's going to be a grind out physical game again, like the last game. But I just see New England coming away with this win. Not a lot of relevant fantasy players in this game. We have Waller Jacobs on one side, and then we have Cam, Julian Edelman, and N'Keal Harry. So 5 total fantasy starters this week. Yeah, that's my narrative there. Derek, your turn.
Yeah, when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders against the Patriots, I can see this being an interesting game only because I think the Patriots are just going to win probably close to completely outright, maybe even covered at 7, just because the Raiders are coming off a shorter week. They played Monday Night Football against the Saints. And yes, they beat the Saints, but the Saints did have Michael Thomas missing. Drew Brees is looking worse. So you are a little concerned there. And the Saints had a lot of penalties in that game. And you wonder how many times that ball kept getting pushed down the field for the Raiders or in the opposite direction against the Saints that it did hurt them to the point of they just lost it all. I mean, the Raiders won, and they definitely deserve that win. They look like the better team, no questions asked. But is it because no Thomas? Is it because Drew Brees without no Thomas is the worry? Drew Brees 5-10 years ago without Michael Thomas, you wouldn't have worried about that. But Drew Brees this year kind of looks concerning without the Michael Thomas. But that's nothing to do with the Raiders, of course, but it may be why they squeaked out a win there. We're still not sure how great of a team the Raiders are. They seem to be pretty good, but we have to keep watching on what's this team going to be. And for them to cover against the Patriots, I mean, the Patriots have been smashing. They went toe-to-toe with the Seahawks. They just killed the Dolphins 21-11 in the first week, which we just saw. The Dolphins aren't too bad, really. They're actually doing pretty good. So to just beat them by 10 points. I mean, could they do that to the Raiders as well? I think there's a good chance. When it comes to relevant fantasy players, Derek Carr, unless you're in a 2 QB league and you can start him, I guess, then. But other than that, I wouldn't touch him. Josh Jacobs, yeah, I would say he's probably RB1. I think he's kind of on that fringe just because I'd be curious how much Bill Belichick just decides to take away him and Darren Waller, who is also kind of a fringe tight end. Like, you have to start him because he's Darren Waller, but he's going to be having a rougher time than he did against than the Saints. But, I mean, I can see Carr still throwing to him, even if it's not advised. And that does concern me a little bit of could they do a pick? I doubt a pick 6, but even just a pick and just kill a drive right there. That could happen. But they do have Ruggs, which hopefully they'll just get him the ball and let him run. That's what I'm hoping. I don't even care if they lose the game. I just want them to see them use their players, not properly, but in their best way for who they're facing.
Hold up.
And what's up?
Did you say they have Ruggs?
What do you mean? The Vegas
He's
Raiders? Out. Oh, he's out this week. I didn't realize that.
His knee, he's out.
Oh, shit.
That's why I say it's time to see what Bryan Edwards can do.
Yeah, so now I can see why you were wondering about Bryan Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to see some decent coverage still.
Wow.
But yeah, without Ruggs, I didn't realize Ruggs was out. I missed that in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, yeah, I hate to say it, but I think the Patriots definitely probably cover that number. I might even, like, when I go to put it, it's still close. It's one of those games that whether I'm going to click the Patriots or the Raiders to cover the number, it's going to be tough. But I think with Ruggs out as well, and Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs did have a little lingering injury at the end of their game the other day, but like you had advised me, it's not an actual injury. It's more, soreness and tightness, and likely won't really impact them for this week. But coming off of a short game and one, it was a Monday night big game, that tends to leave people not so great the next week. They tend to suffer a little bit. Like, it's funny, you can actually see it through that it does hurt them a little bit. Now, will they get beaten by 7? I don't know. Cam Newton looking good this year. He's definitely in QB1 this week, probably not the top 5, but he's definitely in there. I mean, we have to see what the Raiders defense is going to look like against them. But and then when it comes to running backs, I wouldn't. touch anyone. Sony Michel would be the first one you think of. Damian Harris, he will be coming back soon, so you might want to keep your eye on him, maybe stashing him on your IR if you can on one of your teams. But until we start seeing them use the running back at a consistent basis, especially at the goal line, I'd be too scared to use him. I know week 1 I had said I would go pick up Sony Michel out for the week 2 waiver wires, thinking that maybe Cam Newton's not going to score 2 running touchdowns every week, but he's done it 2 weeks so far. I mean, I won't do it every week, but even if he keeps scoring 1 on average, that hurts the running backs big time. And I mean, it'd be cool to see him beat his old record of 13 on the season.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman, it's kind of funny they're not using him in the short game anymore. That's actually more N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman running around further routes. So it's kind of funny how Bill Belichick will just make this team work no matter what you give him. Like, that's the reason that you just take when you're looking for a spread. You almost just pick who's the better coach, who's the better quarterback, and that's how you go. And so that's why I might lean towards the Patriots covering that number, which is hard because pretty big number, but I could see it happen, especially being Raiders have to go all the way east as well to travel, so that's not helping them either on a short week, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting game nonetheless, especially for you as the Raiders fan. So the next game we look into is the San Francisco 49ers at the New York Giants. The over-under is 41, and the Giants are planned to losing by 4.5 according to ESPN and other sites. So that's an understandable reason. The 49ers have looked good this year, except for the fact that they just lost so many players last week. I don't even know how they're still standing. They lost Nick Bosa to a torn ACL. They lost Solomon Thomas, if I could say it right, to IR for now. Deebo Samuel is out. Kittle is questionable. I think I've seen reports that he's out, and I keep seeing 2 different reports, and I didn't like that. He's out. That's what I thought. Coleman's out. Mostert's out. So that does leave Jerick McKinnon. He's going to be running around, and also Jeff Wilson. I mean, if you're in a deeper league, start him in your flex. I believe he could see some goal lines real easy. Especially they just got Jerick McKinnon back for the first time in like 2 years. They're not going to overrun him. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's never really done that anyways, but especially for someone who's finally come back after 2 years of 2 injuries, he's not going to risk him out there, especially with the other running backs injured as well. He's not going to kill his whole running back roster just for another week, especially when they're playing the Giants. I believe it's going to be probably an easy win against them, even though they have so many injuries. Now, will they cover the number? That is the only thing I am questioning, because Daniel Jones does like to just throw until there's nothing left. So I'd be curious if he keeps throwing to Darius Slayton and Golden Tate. Now, he doesn't have Sterling Shepard this week, and the biggest hit, he doesn't have Saquon Barkley. So that's going to be curious. What happens there? He's out with a torn ACL. So now we have Devonta Freeman, who just signed with them for, I think, $3 million for the year, which he was reported to have been offered more on other teams, but he wanted a more starting role. So I guess that's why he picked the Giants. So I'd be curious to see how well he does. He didn't look great last year with the Falcons, so I'd be curious to see how well he does. Deion Lewis, he's also someone to consider just because maybe Freeman doesn't start all the snaps in his first game, so maybe you can flex Deion Lewis, but that has to be a super deep league. I wouldn't have him anywhere near my lineup if I have a competent lineup. Evan Ingram, I could see him doing quite well just because you don't have Sterling Shepard, you don't have Barkley, and when you lose a pass-catching running back, a lot of times some of those targets tend to go to the tight end, and vice versa. Whenever you lose your top tight ends, sometimes the running back gets more dump-offs. And Jordan Reed, I mean, if Kittle was out, Jordan Reed, he did great last week. Why can't he do it again? So that's my main takeaway for the fantasy players there. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm still not sold. This is one of those games that if there was any sports betting involved, I'd be completely out. I would not even put a dime on this game. Just because there's so many unknowns. I mean, it's at the Giants. It's not in San Francisco, so the team has to travel. Like you said, they only need one plane because the other plane is all injuries. So they barely have a team right now. But the foundation of the team, the coach, they still have nobody. Like, oh my God, everyone's out. Okay, let's settle back in here. Let's see my fantasy relevance. Wide receivers, nobody in my top 48. That's great. Tight ends for San Francisco. Jordan Reed, I don't stat out outside of my 18, but Jordan Reed was my 19th. So he's worth a mention just because, like I said about Drew Sample, where 19 would be Jordan Reed's floor. There's good chances one of the tight ends ahead of what I'm saying. Like Mike Gesicki, I had him at 9. He scored 1 touchdown on 1 catch. So big chances there. Mike Gesicki's not going to finish inside my top 15. So that allows the Drew Samples and the Jordan Reeds of the world to jump up ahead of him in my standings. So like 19 would be his floor. I mean, he was great last week. He's the only relevant pass catcher. They have Kendrick Bourne and Ayuki or however you say his name. My apologies.
Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, if I'm not right, but those guys they're still figuring out the NFL. Like they've never really Ayuk's a rookie, and so there's just no relevance there. Running backs, however, Jerick McKinnon's my running back 17. This guy's going to see passing work, running work, and then J. Michael Hasty and Jeffrey Wilson are also going to be involved because they need to give the ball to somebody. This game, I know the over and under is 41, but I still might want to take the under. Like, I think it's going to be a run on the. San Francisco's going to say, we want to control the clock. We want to control the game. I can see it being a 17-10 win for San Francisco or something there, just because they're going to want to control the time. If they're able to shut down New York in any capacity, then they're going to win the game just on clock management alone. So that being said, Daniel Jones is still my QB 19, just because he's going to get enough throws out there. He's going to have enough yardage with his legs, but does he even throw a touchdown this game? It's really, maybe he throws 3. Who knows? It could be, you never know. But I don't believe in him this week. Just, I don't know. He's definitely going to run more with Saquon out, but that team is a mess right now. Losing Saquon, he was the heart of that offense, so it's so hard to say. Evan Ingram, tight end 10. And Golden Tate actually came in at my wide receiver 45. He was 5 for 5 last week. I mean, he's always relevant in any kind of point or PPR league. He's always relevant, and it sucks because he has no upside, so I don't want to play him. So he fell into my top 48 just because he's going to be that every week. Somehow he always sneaks in. And then Darius Slayton, 31. So wide receiver 2.5. So we're going to see what happens there. I don't like this game. It's not a game I'm interested in watching because there's so many missing. I want to understand what's going on with the running backs there, but I don't have any shares in any of the running backs. So it's just as a fantasy analyst and fan of fantasy football, I want to see what's going to happen there, but I have no interest in that backfield whatsoever. So yeah, ugly game. Not going to be fun to watch. Going to be over quick. Is what it is. Moving on to our next game, we have the Houston Texans taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is a divisional game. It's going to be hot and heavy. These are two teams that I know the Steelers are 2-0 right now, but their schedule is going to toughen up. They're going to be challenged down the road, especially with still having the Ravens twice and stuff like this. So it's going to be a good game. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with James Conner again. I still think they want to learn what Benny Snell is, but I think they're going to stick to James Conner as the bell cow for now. Hopefully he can get through this game. I have him as running back 14. On the other side of the ball for running back, David Johnson's my running back 27. I know Melvin Gordon did something against them, but that was because he had a receiving touchdown on the ground. He wasn't great. So, and David Johnson, yeah, he's a great receiving back. But I just don't see David Johnson being able to. Oh, well, that's my fault. Not a divisional matchup. Great. I really know the NFL. I'm very smart.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out. I was gonna just wait for my turn, but yeah, it's
Wow.
not. I think you always place them in the same one. I don't know why you do that.
I
I'm not
always
sure who you're
always
placing
have,
in which division in your
because
mind, but
it's Steelers, Ravens, Browns, and
and
Cincy.
Bengals.
And
Yeah,
Cincy, yeah. What?
yeah.
Why would I know what the division? Okay. Not a divisional matchup. Your mom's your dad. I'm lying. So moving on. So the running backs, yeah, I'm more on James Conner side than anything there. Big Ben, I was actually high on, which I'm excited about. I have him QB 12, so he's QB 1. And then Deshaun Watson, I have him QB 10, but I feel like that might be his ceiling this week. So watch for that. Jordan Akins didn't fall inside my top 18 tight ends, but he's always relevant, and I really like him. I have Will Fuller. People are probably interested to see after that zero target game. I have Will Fuller still at 29. I don't know what to expect here. I think he's going to be under that. And Brandon Cooks at wide receiver 37 because last game I saw a connection between Deshaun Watson and Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks looked like himself last week, unlike week 1. So it's interesting to see what's there. I would love if Brandon Cooks took over as the wide receiver 1 there. I just think his talent on the outside he's top 12 on the outside as a wide receiver. Like, he is very, very good, very talented, fast, and great route runner. So top 12 might be a stretch. Top 18. Anyway, tight ends for Pittsburgh, not relevant. Wide receivers, I have them both in the top 20. Deontay Johnson at 19 and Juju at 10. I was also pondering to myself last night after a glass of wine. It was, yeah, people are saying Deontay Johnson's the wide receiver 1 here. He's getting the targets. He's getting everything else. Who do you think's the wide receiver 1 in this offense? Like, when if you were the offensive coordinator and you'd say, we got to get this guy the ball more than that guy, who do you say is your wide receiver 1?
That's difficult only because Juju, they play very different positions. So, like, Deontay Johnson gets the better target, the more fruitful targets, right? He gets them downfield. But, of course, Big Ben still really trusts Juju when it comes to the red zone. So, like, that's where it kind of like is a trade-off. It's like, yeah, Deontay is so good at separating all that stuff and having those more fruitful targets downfield and stuff. But then Juju also just tends to get the tight touchdowns just because Big Ben knows where to find him. Juju is not elite at anything really. He's just really good at everything. Like he's that thing. He's like, he doesn't have elite speed, but he has really good speed. Like, I mean, he's really good hands, not elite hands, no like Hopkins hands, but like, and that's the thing. He's just so good at everything that it makes him hard to cover, especially where the position he plays in there. And then with Deontay spreading out the field, because of course he's doing great route running and separating, it gives easy target for Ben to just dump off to as well. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that's a tough question. I want to say, I can't even say which one. I want to say Juju, but then Deontay's so good at other things. Like I mean, I think they found their next AB light at least.
Light. That's why, like, I'm kind of in a fantasy perspective, I'm saying Juju's 1A, Deontay's 1B. In their team goals, it might be okay to drive up the field. Deontay's kind of our guy. Juju's our safety blanket because, like you said, Juju's great at everything. And one thing about Juju that people don't realize is he's an oversized inside receiver. Like, he plays the Randall Cobb, Danny Amendola, Golden Tate-esque roles, but he's also huge compared to those guys. So he's pretty much like a tight end hybrid inside that's really good at football. So he definitely fits this offense and everything else. So yeah, that's a good discussion on Pittsburgh there. I didn't talk about the game score here. So we have combined score 45 for the over-under, and Pittsburgh's projected to win by 3.5, and everything there seems very spot on. So that's projecting a 25-22 for Pittsburgh. I see Pittsburgh winning this game, but I'm not confident in that. Sports bet in another game, I'm hands off just because Houston's kind of been like a disaster up to date, and with that Steelers' very good defense. Yeah, I mean, but you have to respect Deshaun. Like, Deshaun quarterback talent is top 6 in the league, so you got to respect that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm taking Pittsburgh to win the game, but it's a field goal at the end of the game. It's a last drive game winner. What side it goes, I don't know, but I'm banking on Pittsburgh just because I like their defense a lot better. So yeah, Pittsburgh wins just because of their defense.
Yeah, their defense alone, you're definitely going to want to start him in fantasy because Deshaun is good at getting hits and good at, especially the hits because he starts to scramble and he gets hit. Then the next scramble, he actually, breaks off and gets some yardage. This is tough for me to who I think is going to win just because the Steelers have played two relatively easy, what we think might be easy matchups in the Giants and the Broncos, and squeaked out barely a win against the Broncos after they lost Sutton and Drew Lock. So it's like that is very kind of scary for me when it comes to Houston Texans. Yeah, they lost both of their games by like 15 points, but they played the Chiefs and the Ravens. Like, way to just give Watson no chance, especially, I mean, he needs a good wide receiver one. I don't know where he would get one. I mean, like DeAndre Hopkins, maybe.
Yeah, he'd be pretty good for Deshaun, but yeah, I guess David Johnson's probably a better wide receiver than DeAndre not my.
Oh. Yeah, what are you, Bill O'Brien? Like, what's going on there? No, but when it comes to that, yeah, I'm probably going to do the same with you and just pick Steelers to cover the number, but geez, that does scare me because I feel like Texans may try to finally punch back this week. I mean, Steelers have won 2-0 and the Texans have won 0-2, and maybe they're just, I mean, that's the thing is week 3 is actually the hardest week typically to bid because you start to believe the teams, and that's when everything turns, and then you actually go back and then you're more conservative. So like right now, everyone thinks that Steelers are great and the Texans aren't so great, but it's like, they also, if you look who they face, it's like this could be a trap game, in my opinion. I think there is a chance that the Texans squeak out a win, and I'm going to have a hard time deciding who I'm going to pick to actually cover the number. When it comes to fantasy players, Watson, you're going to want to start unless you have another QB1 in your lineup or on your team or on the waiver wires, which I know in 12-team leagues, that kind of happens quite often. I mean, I picked up Matt Ryan and quite a few others, and Matt Stafford, like on the waiver wires because people dropped them because they picked up 2 good ones and they tried to trade off the other one and they couldn't, so they had to drop them for another, like a Mike Davis type player. David Johnson, I mean, you have to play him. It's going to be scary because it's against the Steelers. Will Fuller and Brandon Cook. Is Will Fuller healthy?
Yeah.
So with Will Fuller healthy and Brandon Cooks, it would be curious to see who ends up seeing the most of the targets. Is it just because one gets covered more by, especially with Minkah Fitzpatrick on the other end of the field? It's hard to say. And when it comes to the tight end Jordan Akins, Deshaun Watson seems to have a little of a sweet tooth for him. He seems to target him whenever he needs to. So I will definitely keep him in mind as a tight end to stream if you're desperate. But that's more on the side if you're desperate. I wouldn't have him as a tight end 1 at all. When it comes to the other side of the ball, Big Ben, he's another one you're probably going to want to start, kind of like Watson, unless you have someone better. If I had to pick between them, probably pick Big Ben just because he has the better wide receivers, in my opinion, and I think they just get downfield a few more times and the only thing is Deshaun actually has his legs. That's what helps Deshaun. But I'd probably still go Big Ben for a better floor, just because I feel like if Deshaun gets too many picks or gets hit too many in the backfield, depending what your settings are, that could hurt your points. James Conner, I think he's a must start, just because they've proven once they go to a running back, that's just who they use. I mean, they've been doing it forever now, since the start of time. So I would definitely use them. Tight ends for them, Eric Ebron, one touch. And of course, like I've already mentioned, their defense I would actually use. Moving on to the next game, Carolina Panthers at the Los Angeles Chargers. The over-under is 44. The Chargers are predicted to win by 7 points, 6.5 in one place, 7.5 in the other. So a touchdown, which to me sounds kind of trappy. Now the Chargers will be starting their rookie quarterback because Tyrod Taylor's still out with the lung puncture. So that will be interesting to see what happens with Herbert. This is his second game, and yes, he's surprised and went against the Chiefs and went toe-to-toe, went to overtime with the Chiefs, which is nuts. I mean, why they didn't go for it on 4th and 1 in overtime, or I have no idea. Just no idea. They should have went for it, in my opinion, but they thought, hey, our defense can hold up, which you would have thought until Butker there got 3 freaking 55-plus yard field goals in a row because one flag and then they iced the kicker for I think 2 of them at 62 yards or 58 or something like that. It was ridiculous to see a kicker hit 3 like that in a row. I mean, it was amazing. It was interesting to watch. It was definitely a nail biter, but that does mean the Chargers are coming back from exhausting huge games. So that's what scares me about them as well. Is usually players who've played 5 full quarters, right? Because they went into overtime. Typically, their team the next week doesn't perform as well, especially when it comes to the odds, like whether they'll cover the number, and that's why I believe they won't cover the number. I'm not even 100% sure if they'll probably win the game because their defense is so good, and the other team just lost Christian McCaffrey because he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So seeing that, it does make me want to pick, of course, the Panthers to cover, but we'll see. Comes to the relevant fantasy players, Teddy Bridgewater would not touch. Mike Davis, only if you want to flex start at best. I would be scared for him because there is a chance they might just give more shots to Curtis Samuel and Ian Thomas. I mean, there has been a lot of times but Mike Davis is a great pass catching running back. He is elite at that. So I do want to see what happens there because he could just keep getting Christian McCaffrey targets. But of course, he's only going to play, to my opinion, 70% of what at best for what his replica to try to beat Christian McCaffrey. DJ Moore, start him. I mean, you almost have to. Robbie Anderson, you don't really want to start him unless in your flex. I mean, he's done 2 great weeks, I believe, but he's scary against the Chargers defense. So that's why I'd be a little worried. Curtis Samuel, wouldn't touch him, but someone to keep your eye out. Comes to the other side, Justin Herbert, wouldn't start him. He's a rookie quarterback in his second game, but he's someone just to see how well he does. It'll be interesting to watch him play his second game and see what's different of having a full week of practicing with the players and actually not knowing, after the coin toss, hey, you're going to be playing in this game. I mean, that's literally how late he knew. Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly, they're both running back 2, running back 3, maybe flex start. Eckler a little higher, of course, because you might see more targets. But I do like Kelly for trying to run in and punch in those goal line carries. Keenan Allen, I actually have higher now, just because Herbert really likes him. So I could see him getting better weeks than he has in the past. Mike Williams, I mean, if Herbert decides to take one big shot, Mike Williams catch a couple, and there goes his weeks. Hunter Henry, I would start him for sure. Herbert definitely used him on the short ends of the field, and he will probably be maybe not top 5, but I'd say at least a good top 10 tight end. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Henry, I have him at tight end 5, so I have him in for a good week. When I think about this game, I'm like, okay, rookie quarterback, Carolina, you're able to score the ball against them. We've seen that in the first 2 weeks. Okay. But Carolina's offense has proven pretty good. So I'm just like, in my head, when I think of the game, I'm like, okay, this could be a close game. But then when I think of the fantasy relevance, which not always, but like 70% of the time when you see very good fantasy output from one team and not from the other, you see that team win the game most times than not. And when I look at this game, Austin Eckler, running back 12, to Mike Davis, running back 29. I think this is an Austin Eckler week, but then Joshua Kelly, running back 25 in my rankings. So that's almost a running back 2. So, like, as I'm saying, Joshua Kelly is probably better than Mike Davis this week. Unless you're in full point PPR, then Mike Davis is probably catching 6-7 passes. But I am scared in the Russian totals because, as you said, Curtis Samuel probably comes in and plays a role there in the Russian. Then when I look at quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, 25, Justin Herbert, 27. Now, Justin Herbert most likely does better than 27. He has a very good repertoire of weapons, and he's playing against a weaker pass-catching defense. So, and then when I look at the wide receivers there, well, I guess I only have Keenan Allen at wide receiver 20, which would be very good for him, considering how the season has started so far. So that being said, when I look at the side of the ball for the Chargers, there's a lot more weapons there. DJ Moore does come in at 11, and Robbie Anderson 32, but there's a lot of good defensive players on that Chargers team, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them underperform to my rankings. But yeah, if I'm trying to bet on this game, I think Carolina covers the spread, but I still think Chargers win the game. I think, like the last game, it comes down to the last drive, and I hope it's not on the back of Justin Herbert because he might not do so well, but he seemed cool and collective last week, so I guess we're all going to see. Anyway, moving on to the Dallas Cowboys against Seattle. Play everybody. That's all I have to say. I mean, Amari Cooper is my wide receiver 3 on the week, just because I think this is finally his game where he catches that touchdown. He's been having a really good season. Yards, receptions, he's been having a really good season, just hasn't found the end zone. Michael Gallup, again, is my wide receiver 21, followed by CD at 27. Those could be interchangeable, depends who catches a touchdown or who has that big play. Other side of the ball, I have Tyler Lockett 6, DK Metcalf 8, so both of my top 10. Zeke's a smash play. I have him as my running back 3 on the week. Other side of the ball, Chris Carson, I have him at 15. So like I said, play everybody. The tight end on Seattle side of the ball, you never know who to predict, so don't play them. But then when we look at Dalton Schultz, I have at 14. And my quarterbacks, try to do this quickly, we have Dak at 4, Russ at 2. So as I'm saying, play everybody. That's all I have to say. Derek? Oh, and if we had to give my game prediction, it's projected Seattle wins by 4.5, and I'm with that. Seattle wins this game.
Yeah, so this is the first Sunday afternoon game, and it's a nice one. This is going to be a fun one to watch. The over-under is 55.5, and Seahawks, yeah, they're predicted to win by 4.5. I probably have to agree with the Seahawks winning, but they did lose Bruce Irvin to a torn ACL, so that could hurt their team quite a bit. Be interesting to see what their defense looks like. That might allow the Cowboys to cover the number. So that's why I am still torn. I want to see also if there's any other injuries in that position to see who's backing him up and how good he is. Because if he isn't there, I could see Cowboys putting up a lot of points as well because they just have Cooper, Gallup, Lamb, Zeke, their tight end there, Schultz, I think, or
Schultz, yep.
Yeah. So, Gallup's not been seeing many fantasy points really much this year because that's not really his role. His role is more to be that guy that stretches the field and take away that top coverage, one of the top coverages, and then leave Cooper and Cooper, Lamb, and Zeke and Schultz to just do everything underneath and just totally obliterate that team. So that is why I would. Gallup I'd have lower than Lamb, to be honest. Prescott is a must start. Wilson is a must start. It's going to be I figure probably going to be a great game to watch. And I don't know how the Cowboys won last week. That was quite a miracle with the onside kick and then a nice kick at the end to seal that game. But yeah, no, you got to just start everybody. There's almost no questions who you start other than the tight end on Seahawks. There's not really anyone there because they're all question mark of who's actually going to get the most targets. But it's because they're doing a good job of spreading that out and not targeting them too much. I do believe Wilson at some point in the season, not this game, I don't think, is going to come down from his crazy touchdown rate of 14%, which we thought 9% last year for
Lamar.
what's his name? Lamar was crazy, and now Russell has 14. Like, he's just blowing out of water. But I believe this is another game. He's just going to keep doing it. I mean, let Russ cook.
When do you think he's going to stop? Because he has Miami next week, then Minnesota.
Maybe Miami will slow him down just because they'll get up so quickly, and then they're like, okay, well, Miami's not doing anything back. Although we do have Fitzmagic on the other side, and he can just sling. So yeah, you're right. It might not stop for a while. Fun to use that. It's gonna be fun to use those players.
Yeah. Sure.
So going into the next game, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Denver Broncos. This has a 43 over-under, so quite a bit lower than the last game, and it's implied that the Buccaneers will win by 5.5. So let's see how Tom Brady does against the Broncos. I can understand why they cover this number, because when you look at it, the Broncos lost Cortland Sutton out for the season. They lost Jermont Jones. They lost Drew Lock for at least probably 6 weeks. So now they have Jeff Driscoll starting. They have the rookie Jerry Jeudy that is banged up, so that's something to keep in mind. And he'll be facing the top coverage. And they only have Melvin Gordon, because I believe what's his name still out?
Philip Lindsay,
running back. Yeah, he's still out again. So. And the Bucs are a good run defense last year, and I believe they're still doing decent this year. I mean, they played against CMC, so that's not so fair. And they also played the Saints as well. So it's like they faced two good running backs anyway. So it's like it's hard to tell. Maybe that is fit during numbers, but
they're a great defense all the way around. Solid.
Yeah, and so that's why I believe. Yeah, the Bucs are going to come away with this, no problem. To cover the number, it is a decent-sized number. It's almost a touchdown, but I believe they can do it because, I mean, they get Godwin back, which you've never had. They basically finally get their full suite of wide receivers. So when you think of it, Tom Brady, is he a QB1? He's on the fringe of QB1, in my opinion. I don't know if I'd put him inside the QB1. He'd probably fall to 14 or 15. When you think of Godwin's got to be up there as fringe wide receiver 1, probably closer to wide receiver 2 mid-level, because there is also the other wide receiver. What's his name? It escapes me right now. Mike Evans. So he's still going to be there. Him and Brady haven't been seeing great connections other than a few times. So we'd be curious to see maybe with Godwin there, he will be more targeted, and then Mike Evans will have such a good route opened that Tom Brady just sees it and just can't miss him type thing. When it comes to the backfield in Buccaneers, I believe the only one you want to play is Fournette. Rojo is scary because it seems like they were just waiting for Rojo to mess up, and as soon as he did, they took him out. Now, if Fournette messes up, we'd be curious to see if they do the exact same thing. If he fumbles or anything like that, if they just yank him and put Rojo right back in. It's hard to say. That's typically what he did before, but they really seemed to just couldn't wait to see Rojo fail so they could throw Fournette in there. So I would probably want to start Fournette even against these Broncos, probably as a low-end RB2, more RB3 flex, in my opinion. Looking at the tight ends, you have O.J. Howard, because I can't see Gronk being anything at this point of his career, more than a blocker and a mentor, which could help O.J. Howard. Now, would I play O.J. Howard unless I'm in a 2 tight end league? No. Like, that's the only chance. Like, he's around the 20s. Looking on the other side of the ball, we have Jeff Driscoll. He likes to run a little bit, but it's a good defense. I would not even have him at probably top 25. The running is the only thing that will help him score some points. Jerry Jeudy would be scary to play because, he might see the top amount of targets, but scary. Melvin Gordon, he's worth starting just because of the workload he'll receive, but don't expect much more than RB2. I almost have him closer to RB3 just because I'm scared of what this game was going to become. I would be surprised if they don't hit the under on the over-under of 43, and it just becomes a 2010 game or something like that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, this is another game that's going to end quickly because the Bucks know they're going to win the game. The Bucks are going to win the game. Tom Brady knows he's going to win the game. So what's going to happen is Tom Brady's going to go vintage Tom Brady when he plays a weak team, and he's going to go down the first drive, they're going to score a touchdown. They're going to get back on the field, they're going to go down on the second drive, they're going to score a touchdown or a field goal. They're going to go up 10 or 14 nothing. Their drives are going to last long because they're going to run, have a lot of run plays in it and a lot of receptions for short yardage. And they're just going to pick away at the Denver Broncos on the first two drives. They're going to go up quick. And then this is why I have Leonard Fournette as my running back 21, because he's going to get a lot of touches. I hate that I have Godwin at 5 and Evans at 7. They're both top 10.
Wow.
But I see both of them catching a touchdown or having a lot of receptions. I don't see the Bucks scoring more than 24 points. I just think, like I said, it's going to be game script played that they're implied to score 23. So yeah, when I say over 27, then that'd be probably higher than any sports bettor. So yeah, and Denver, I know I said I hate Jeff Driscoll. I hate him this week. Next week he has the Jets. So don't sleep on Jeff Driscoll against the Jets. Like he's gonna do what he wants to the Jets. He's probably gonna finish as a top 20 quarterback next week, but that's for next week's show. This week, Jeff Driscoll's outside my top 30, and there's 32 starting quarterbacks. So that's that. Tom Brady, I have him at quarterback 15, which I still think he's gonna fall below that. Just due to game script, he's not gonna have to throw the ball come second quarter, unless somehow the Noah Fant or Jerry Jeudy break off a huge play, because those are explosive players and they can change the outcome of this game. But yeah, tight ends, Noah Fant's the only one to start here. And then I'm trying to find your boy Melvin Gordon in these stats. I don't know why he's not showing up anywhere. Did I forget to rank him is the question.
RB7.
Running back 9? Something happened there. That
seems aggressive.
News. I think I just had I have him with too many receptions. If I have to put him off the top of my head to who I'd put him behind, I'd even have him behind Jerick McKinnon. So I think he'd fall. Ooh, David Montgomery. I think he falls at running back 17 is where I'd put him. I don't know how he slid to 9. That's super weird. Yeah, so then that means that my Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, all those guys get a bump from what I previously mentioned. Yeah, I'm just going to move on from this game because there's nothing else to talk about. Like I said, I have those wide receivers on the Tampa Bay side in the top 10. Chances are they don't finish there because this game's going to be over before it started and they're not going to have the chance to accumulate those yards, those receptions. But you have to play them because there's high chances at a touchdown probability and high floors in those two players. So then we can move on to Detroit and Arizona. Gross. Just gross. Kyler Murray's going to go off. Kenyon Drake's going to go off because people who can run the ball can run successfully against Detroit. That being said, Kyler comes in at my quarterback 3 behind Russ and Lamar. And then, sorry, I apologize for this. Hold up. Kenyon Drake, running back 5. So those are top tier options. DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver 1 on the week in my rankings. So we're talking about up and down the roster, just elite play. Is it going to be Larry Fitz? Is it going to be Christian Kirk? Is it going to be Andy Isabella? We don't know. Probably Larry Fitz, Isabella, Kirk in that order. I'm not playing anyone outside of DeAndre in this game because I know the game is over before it started. But are we going to see the Matt Stafford, Kenny G, Marvin Jones show? Are we? There is a chance this is a higher scoring affair. And I'm just looking at the over-under right now. It's 54.5. So they're two great quarterbacks with great wide receivers that have playmakers. TJ Hawkinson's another playmaker. We know for fantasy purposes, we say Detroit Lions backfield still are untouchable. Like you can throw DeAndre Swift in your flex if you want. but I'm trying to stay away. But that's the fantasy side of it. On real life football side of it is the accumulation of this backfield are going to produce against Arizona. It's just who is it going to be? When is it going to be? So it's going to be a high scoring affair, and that's why I have Matthew Stafford at my quarterback 13. He's just on that brink of being in quarterback 1. So yeah, you can play the 2 wide receivers for the Detroit Lions as well. I'm trying to find Galladay. I have him at 16. That's just because he's going to have Patrick Peterson guarding him, and he's coming off the hamstring, and he quote unquote said, I'm healthy enough to play, but I am not 100%. So what does that mean? He's probably going to be hampered in speed and explosiveness. So yeah, I'm very happy that Kenny G's back in the lineup for all fantasy purposes. And I love watching the guy play football. The way he separates, the way he runs those routes. I'm all about it. So yeah, I'll pass it over to you now. I don't think there's anything else to talk about in this game other than play your Cardinals.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game. I mean, they have them just winning only by 6 or 5.5, and having an over under 54.5. So they obviously think that the Detroit Lions can keep up somewhat toe to toe, especially it being at the Cardinals or at Arizona. So with Kenny G back, it would be really curious to see if they can just hit it off like they did in previous years. I believe they will. I would start Kenny Galladay as a wide receiver 1. There's no way you can't. I mean, there is crazy upside there if he hits it. When it comes to Matt Stafford, I think he's also a starting quarterback. You'd probably have him around. It's hard because you don't know what he can achieve with Kenny Galladay, but it is a high over under. So you want to put him high, but he doesn't run or anything else. So that's where I'm going to probably place him in the 14 range, just outside my top quarterbacks of the week. But he's still someone that I would start either way. Marvin Jones, he's more of a wide receiver 3 flex at best. Hawkinson, with Kenny G back, we might see his target share go down, but I still have him as a tight end 1 just because he might get better targets with Kenny G opening up the system. When it comes to running back, that place is a headache. I don't know who I would pick. I mean, they all almost kind of have to be rostered at this point because it's hard to say who's going to run away with the job. But it's like a lesser version of the 49ers. So it's hard to want to have any even on your team. Swift, to me, is probably one of the best talents, but Carry-On's no slouch either. And Peterson, despite his old age, he's still kicking around. I can't believe it. But I'd be very wary of using any of them, to be honest. When it comes to the Arizona side, Kyler Murray, I mean, yeah, smash play. He's going to be running all around, throwing the ball to Hopkins and Fitzgerald. Hopkins is a no doubt start. He's wide receiver 1, no question. Fitzgerald, probably a decent flex. Wide receiver 3, Kirk, unless he gets lucky, I mean, he's scary to me. It'd be steep flex. And Drake, Kenyon Drake, you got to start him. He catches a few targets and gets a few touchdowns, let alone all the rushing he may do, because they may, if they're ahead, they may try to just rush it out. And even Edmonds, he's someone that this week would be interesting to have on the back of your lineup, just in case, maybe not on your starting lineup, but your roster, just in case Drake goes down, where Drake may, because Drake, they may get ahead and Drake may be used a lot, and we've never seen Drake do a full season with a lot of carries. So, and Edmonds is one of those guys you have to have on your team if he's on the waiver wire, because if Drake goes down, we know he could almost replace him a 1-to-1, right? So all of a sudden you're getting a running back 1-2 at the very least. So it's someone you want to have on your roster, but benched. So now moving into Sunday Night Football. So this is fun because I believe we have 2 of them this week. 2 or 3?
2.
I think we have
the first one's
2.
good. The second one is bad.
Yeah, so the first one is the New York Jets at Indianapolis Colts. This is going to be a puke fest. The implied over-under is 43.5. The score is predicted to be Colts winning 27-17, which, youch. But I can understand because the Jets have nobody. They're kind of like the situation of the 49ers. They lost a lot of players too. They lost their centers week to week in Connor McGovern. He was never a highly touted center, but he's still their starting center. So when he goes down, that's not a great thing. They don't have Brashad Perriman this week. They don't have Crowder this week, and they don't have their right tackle George Fant this week. So this is just not lining up good for the Jets. And the Colts, the Jets have a good running defense, but the Colts have such a good running team with their O-line and Taylor. So despite them having a good running defense, I could see Taylor still running all over them. And you could see the appearance of Hines coming into there where he might get a few dump offs. But I would be really interested to see what happens with Pittman, especially with Paris Campbell out. And they also lost Malik Hooker as well. So that's going to hurt the secondary for the Colts a lot. But I don't even know who Sam Darnold's going to plan to throw to take advantage of that. So, yeah, I got Sam Darnold. Don't want to start him. Frank Gore. It's Frank Gore. I'm sorry to say. Despite how well he plays at his age, that's just not what we're looking for. There's no explosiveness as there used to be. So you don't want to play him. If he gets another, unless you're really desperate to get like 5-6 points because you just want those 50 to 60 yards on 20, 30 carries, that would be the only way. Herndon, I mean, he's been blocking so much because Adam Gase just likes to use him as that because he doesn't like him. But I don't know who else catches the ball in there. When you look at the other side, you got Phillip Rivers. I'd be scared to use him just because it's Phillip Rivers. I would never have him highly touted ever since last year. And he lost Campbell. I mean, there is T.Y. Hilton and Pittman, so I'd be curious to see what happens there. T.Y. Hilton is not looking as great as he used to, but he could still perform well. We just got to see it. Pittman, he's a rookie. Be curious to see what he can pull off now that he has a clear path to more targets. Now that Paris Campbell's out for multiple weeks, 6 to 8, I believe, or indefinitely. And then we have Mo Alley Cox, which Marcel nicknamed Mac. And then I decided, why not Big Mac? Because he's huge. The dude's huge. So Big Mac starting at tight end. He's going to be probably a fun play if Doyle is out. I'm not sure if you know if he's out or not, but he's going to probably be a fun play. The thing is he did drop a touchdown right away in the game last week, so hopefully they continue to go to him because that wasn't great. That touchdown hit him right in the chest, and he just dropped it. So I'd be curious to see if Phillip Rivers still trusts him, which seeing what Phillip Rivers did last year, he probably trusts anyone at this point. And yeah, Taylor and Hines. Taylor's a must start, and Hines, if you're really desperate flex, I can see him catching. I can't see him doing worse than last week, that's for sure. But I can see him getting a few more targets this week. I feel like they might have just did so much with Taylor to see what could he do, right? Kind of see his high expectations. What could we actually do with this guy if we needed to in a game script? What do you see, Merce?
Jonathan Taylor and T.Y. Hilton. And nobody else matters in this game. That's a lie. Mo Alley Cox, Big Mac. Big Mac matters. Why do I say this? Because this is another game that it's over before it started. Who is Sam Darnold going to throw to? Braxton Berrios. It's his only target this week. I am, like you said, I'm watching this game. Even though I'm not starting these guys, I'm watching this game for 2 rookies. The first is Michael Pittman Jr., it's his first chance to really show how good he's going to be against a weaker team. Usually I like to watch rookies against weaker corners early in their career to say, okay, they can keep up the speed. They can play in this league. I'm not starting Michael Pittman Jr. I don't even know if he fell into my rankings, to be honest. No, he didn't fall in my top 48. Braxton Berrios fell at 48. So last receiver on the board. And T.Y. Hilton's 25, so outside my wide receiver Two, I don't want to get hooked on this. I just want to say if you've seen my tweet about the easiest line of the week, I think it's Jonathan Taylor time. Run, 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 run. When it comes to third down, throw to Mo Alley Cox, throw to T.Y. Hilton. So, yeah, the sports bet of the week for me is Jonathan Taylor over 80 yards. I think it happens because last week he had 26 carries, and if you can't take 26 carries and turn it into 80 yards against the Jets, then why is he a running back? Especially the most talented running back in this class. And then, as I wanted to say, sorry, 3 rookies I'm looking at. Lamical P. Ryan.
LaMichael P. Ryan, yeah.
LaMichael? I thought it was Lamical.
Oh, maybe. Either way, P. Ryan.
P. Ryan. I am looking at this guy because last week he came in late in the game and ran he had 3 attempts and averaged 5.7 yards per attempt. I know San Francisco's defense beat up, but that's still against a very good D-line. So I'm interested to see, does this guy have some kind of juice? They're going to be out of this game by halftime, so I just want to see. I want to watch his talent there. So yeah, I'm done on that game. I don't want to talk any more about it. But moving on to Green Bay versus the Saints. The line is said to be Saints win 28-25 against the Packers. The over/under is 52.5. I'm taking the under in this, and I'm taking the under in this in sports betting. Why? Michael Thomas is already out. They could only score 17 points against the Raiders. What are they going to do against Green Bay? Green Bay has a better defense. Raiders were putting up points, so it's not like, oh, they were game scripting. Yeah, they went up 10-0. I get that. But after half, they couldn't score against the Raiders defense. They're not going to be able to score this much against the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, they might score more than 17, but I'm taking the under in this because on the other side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers likely won't have Devonta Adams. He might be game time, but I don't see him playing. Now, there's a lot of chatter about who do you take then? Do you take Lazard or do you take MVS? I've heard some things like MVS has better chemistry with Rodgers, been around longer, has the long bomb touches, has the end zone looks. I'm still taking Allen Lazard because he is a possessional player. Every possession, he could catch the ball. But who am I taking here? Aaron Jones. He's catching the ball 8 times. He's running 18 times. This guy's going to have the bulk of the work, especially if Adams is out. Aaron Rodgers, I have him in at quarterback 8. And then there's Drew Brees. I have him at quarterback 16. There's no tight end I'm willing to play for the Packers. I do have Jared Cook coming in at 13, which is very low for Jared Cook. It's just I believe the other people were going to be better this week. I'm playing Emmanuel Sanders, but I am not playing Tre'Quan Smith in this matchup. I'm not. I probably should, and this is saving my butt in saying Tre'Quan Smith could legitimately finish this week as a top 20 wide receiver. But I just don't have it happening. So that's all I have to say there. Emmanuel Sanders, yeah, I have him in my top 32. So you can play him, I guess. Oh, yeah. Alvin Kamara. Sorry, didn't talk about Alvin Kamara this week. I do think this is a battle of the running backs, and Alvin Kamara comes in at 2. Aaron Jones comes in at 8, which this is just because there's going to be this is the week where running backs are going to blow up, just given all the matchups. Aaron Jones might be running back 8, but the stats he's going to put up would have been a running back 3 last week, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I think I have Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry. Those top 8 are going to be like this week. They're going to smash. It's going to be top 100 running back performances on the year, which 16 weeks, 12 running backs. They're probably all going to be top 80 performances on the year for running backs. So it's a smash week if you have those top 8 guys. So yeah, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara are going at each other this week. They're the ones going to get the bulk of the touches, whether it's rushing, whether it's receiving. So that's my call in this game.
Yeah, you had mentioned that. Yeah, the over/under is 52.5. I'm not sure if it's going to hit that, just because the teams are very similar. They're both likely. Well, I mean, Saints are out their top receiver, but probably so is the Packers. And I wouldn't blame them if they did. They're up 2-0 in the standings. Why not just sit your best, one of your best pieces on offense? Let them rest. I mean, there's a chance. I think they're going to win the game either way. Yeah, and plus the Saints just had a short week on playing the Raiders on Monday Night Football and taking a little bit of a beating. So that's where I believe the Packers are probably going to win, even if the Saints come with fire because they just lost their last game. Is everyone knows like how much Drew Brees and Michael Thomas love each other when it comes to on the field, and there's no Thomas. So what's Drew Brees going to do? I mean, he tried his best against the Raiders to feed the other receivers, but his main thing was, hey, Kamara, you want the ball? Go run. And it's kind of crazy. You'll watch Kamara get the ball with a guy standing right in front of him, and then somehow he's 10 yards and like past him. It's like, how does he do it? I'm not sure. But that's the other thing that's very similar between these teams is both of them have an Alvin Kamara type where they are elite talents of running and catching the ball. And Aaron Jones, to me, is a mini Alvin Kamara, no questions asked. Now, is he to the level of Alvin Kamara? Probably not yet, but he is not far behind him. He performs really well. What they do a lot is if you look at his snap total, it's not really that high, but because whenever he's in, they use him. No question asked. Whether even if it's just running a route and they're gonna maybe throw it to him, that's why he looks so efficient, because when he's in there, they actually do use him, and which is great because in that way he does have all that burst because he does have a good rest. It's kind of annoying as a fantasy owner because all of a sudden they just don't use him as much, especially if Adams is in, and then he just has a poor fantasy day. But then, of course, like you would have saw last week, he could win you your week single-handedly. So when it comes to the teams, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, you're probably going to want to start him. It's going to be a tougher matchup than he's probably had in the past. They played the Vikings and Lions, so too easy defense, and Rodgers is good at beating up bad defense. If Adams is out, I actually probably wouldn't play Rodgers. And I'd probably actually at this point, if you want, try to trade Rodgers away if you can package him away, because without Adams in this week, I'm predicting a poor performance if Adams is out, unless he gets lucky and throws it to Jones into the red zone, into touchdowns. Other than that, because if Adams is out, I could see Rodgers falling to a terrible game, and then no one's going to trust him, right? And then you're just not going to have any trade value for him. Now, that's only if we're planning to trade him away anytime soon. When it comes to MVS and Lazard, they are tough. They are flex at best. They actually scare me, the both of them. It would be curious to see which one kind of tends to break out. Lazard has the better catch ratio compared to MVS, but MVS is also catching the more fruitful catches, so it is kind of hard to decide which. Aaron Jones, I mean, no questions, play him. If the the Packers have a huge lead over Saints, which I don't believe they will, maybe there's a chance we see A.J. Dillon out there even a few times just to spell Jones. And, hey, we could see if he's what he's worth. I mean, he is a rookie that's come in on that team. So I'd be curious to see. But definitely not startable in any league unless you're crazy. Drew Brees, I wouldn't start him as well. With no Thomas there, and he doesn't run, and he's not looking great. I would not start him at all. But he's definitely someone to maybe keep on your bench, because once Thomas comes back, I believe that may all reverse, and he could go back to being fringe QB1. Between Sanders and Traquan Smith, I'm actually on the opposite side. I believe Traquan will have the better week. But I guess only time will tell. I believe he's closer to a wide receiver 3, fringe wide receiver maybe 4. It all depends on on how this game script goes. But Emmanuel Sanders, I have him in the next tier lower. So he's wide receiver 4 or 5, in my opinion. Camaro, you're starting, no questions asked. He's going to get so many dump offs. I almost feel bad for the guy. Jared Cook, he could get quite a few dump offs as well because there's no Michael Thomas. So between those two, I think they're going to get a load of targets. And there is another, I believe he's a rookie Saints player that you can keep your eye out for. He's a really fast player. I forget his name. I want to say not sure of his name, but he is someone to keep an eye out for because he does have pretty great speed. And if if Breeze gets a good pass on him and he just runs for it, he can get some serious distance. But no one you're going to want to start. So that brings us into the last game of the week, Monday Night Football. This is going to be a crazy matchup. You have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Baltimore Ravens, over under 53.5, and implied total of Baltimore winning by 3 to 3.5. So, and that's likely just because they're home teams. In the past, ESPN and other places, you always have the home getting like a +3, like a immediate 3 points just because they're home. Now, I feel like that might change this year just because of less fans, but regardless, this is going to be a fun game. It's going to be curious to see what happens. I mean, the Chiefs did just play 5 quarters last week on Sunday afternoon. That might have hampered them a little bit because they might come out a little more tired than they should have, where the Ravens have been just beaten up on bad teams. I'm not saying the Texans are a bad team, but they're beating up on teams that are easier, and they didn't have to face that elite Chargers defense. So I'm looking to play, of course, Patrick Mahomes, no question. Tyreek Hill, these are all top. There's almost no one you don't want to start. When it comes to McCole Hardman, he's up the list from before only because Sammy Watkins is still questionable, I believe, with that concussion/neck injury. But that does make me want to play McCole Hardman more as a wide receiver 3 flex if you're desperate. It's not something I would want to start. But with that he is a one-dimensional player, but hey, all he needs is one good catch and a long distance touchdown, and he's made your week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he will probably have a decent week. I can't see him having a week like week 1, but I think he's going to do better than week 2. But he is interesting to look at his backups for if he does get injured, because he is a smaller back, or even just spelling him at the goal line, because week 1 we didn't see the greatest performance, but that was against the Texans defense. So we'll be curious to see if maybe this week we start to see what CEH really is, whether he is good or he's just pretty good on a great team, right? He's good either way. He's a top rookie, but on the Ravens side, they have lost Tavon Young to a torn ACL, so he's one of the DBs for the Ravens. So that's going to hurt them because he's pretty darn good for their team. But then you have, of course, Lamar Jackson. No question you're going to play him. And you have Marquise Brown. You're going to want to play him just because he could get some bomb shots down the field, and he just catches them, and everything looks great for them. But you also have Miles Boykin, which could play well in the underneath game and try to get some yardage there. The running backs, it's a 3-headed monster, but there is signs, this is only 2 weeks in, of how they play them. When it's they're playing from behind or close, it has been closer to like a 35 or 50% for both Dobbins and
Ingram.
Ingram, yeah, sorry. They've been playing the most of snaps, and Gus Edwards was far behind. And then, of course, when they're ahead by a lot and not really worried about the other team, then they play Gus Edwards like crazy. So that's why Dobbins and Ingram to me are both startable this week. Ingram probably as a low RB2, probably closer to RB3, just because there's so many good running backs this week. And Dobbins as a RB3 flex, just because he actually is used in the red zone and close to the goal line. So he's actually almost just as interesting. But they do use Ingram still quite a bit, so they do kind of vulture each other. So it's kind of who gets the touchdown, who gets the most yardage. Hard to say, but Dobbins is still interesting just because he's so explosive and can do so much.
Yeah, no. Good point. Definitely good point. I'm not touching or starting Dobbins this week just because last week he only had 2 rush attempts. Yeah. At the end game, you're like, oh, he came away with a pretty good game. That's because one of his runs went for 37 yards, so it made him look relevant. He finished with 48 yards on 2 carries, 1 reception for 13 yards. First week, yeah, he had 2 touchdowns, but then I look at Mark Ingram. I don't know why here it says he's Sleeper has him running back 11. I didn't think he scored enough points to be running back 11. There's been a glitch in their system for a while, so not a sponsor. So yeah, I mean, he had 9 attempts last week for 1 touchdown, and he had 22 yards in the air, so he had 15 total, almost 16 points. I'm starting Mark Ingram. I have him as my running back 24, so at the very edge of a running back 2. So I'm starting him or I'm flexing him if I happen to have. But if I have 2 stud running backs and a 3rd really good wide receiver in a 2 wide receiver league, I'm playing that wide receiver over Mark Ingram. I feel like he's a safe flex, but a last option flex, if that makes any sense at all. I have Lamar Jackson QB1 on the week and Patty Mahomes QB6. I have Tyreek Hill at wide receiver 9, Marquise Brown, wide receiver 17. And I also have Demarcus Robinson in as wide receiver 39. I do want to see how this works out without Sammy. Is it going to be Robinson or is it going to be Mecole Hardman? It's still hard to say, but to me, when I looked at that week 1 game script, Demarcus Robinson seemed to be scripted in as a 2B to Sammy Watkins 2A. But then Travis Kelce, tight end 1, Mark Andrews, tight end 2 in the week. That's how I have them started out. That's what I really expect to see. And then on the last running back, when we're talking about CEH, I have him as running back 16. And that's just because this is a really good Ravens defense. And yeah, they're going to have to throw the ball. Actually, while we're on the pod, I'm just going to bring it up. I want to see his yards per catch right now. 5.3, so that's actually low for a running back, and that's kind of what I expected to see, because every time I've seen him catch the ball, it's like, I'm not impressed yet. So, still waiting to see how that goes. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he had 8 targets, 6 catches last week, so that floor, like that's 3 points and a half point PPR, but only 10 rushes and 10 running attempts against the Chargers, and I expect this to be a similar game script where they're throwing punches back and forth. Yeah, it might get out of hand where it's like, okay, this team just scored. Ravens go down and score. Chiefs go down and score. It might just go back and forth. I give the slight bump to Baltimore just because their defense, I feel like Baltimore is maybe a 3rd or 4th best defense in the league, where I have Kansas City more like your 7th, 8th. I still have them top 10, both teams, top 10 offense, top 10 defense. But I just think Ravens come away with this one. You can't bet against the Chiefs, but statistically, I guess I have the Chiefs losing this game at the spread of, oh my God, the spread's 3.5. I might have Chiefs covering it. Like, I don't know what to do with this game. So yeah, I'm saying Baltimore wins, but I do not know what the spread will be.
Yeah.
Do I have anything else to say on this game? I do not. Oh, I had a point on your last game when you said package Aaron Rodgers and maybe look to trade him away. See, I'm on the other side of the ball where I'm like, I hope this is a down game for Rodgers, because people are going to say, oh, he was just good in week 1. Last week he still had 19 points. Not last week. He had 30 in week 1. So, and then I looked at Rodgers' rest of schedule. Oh my God, he has some juicy matchups coming up. He has Minnesota still again this year. So I am on the Aaron Rodgers hype train right now. I think it's like his comeback tour because they say, well, he probably only has 3 to 4 seasons left. Well, I think he's ready to ball out this season. And that draft pick with Jordan Love, he's just like, okay, boys, relax. Like, I might have had a bad season last year, but I am not done, and I'm going to show you guys I'm not done. Give me the money. I'm ready. So, yeah, I'm not trading away Aaron Rodgers just yet, but also, if we're trading him away for Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson while we still can, then yeah, I get that. Yeah, if you can trade up Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, which you can't do that trade. Cam Newton, I'd even take over Aaron Rodgers. Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers, I have on teeter-totter. Depends on the week. And then everybody, Deshaun Watson. I'm even lower on Deshaun Watson and Matt Ryan on the year than I would be on Aaron Rodgers. So I'm sticking to Aaron Rodgers personally. But yeah.
Yeah, that's just more if you're the type of me who tends to stream quarterbacks a lot anyways. And if I had Aaron Rodgers on my team, I would just package him, try to get a better wide receiver, running back, or tight end, and then just pick up another quarterback and keep streaming. But that's just my general philosophy when it comes to one QB leagues. If it was 2 QB leagues, yeah, it's much different. And like you said, after this weekend he does terrible, that's when you want to go get him, right? You try to, you're always chasing to for the people who's had a good game or 2 in a row, or a good or bad game 2 in a row. So. And I do find it funny how you say, you can't say you won against the Chiefs until the time's out. Well, the Ravens have been doing that too, so it's really curious what the heck is going to happen this game. It's going to be a beautiful game either way.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I'm excited. Everyone has plans Monday night. This is what it is.
Yep.
So I don't care.
Hope they don't let us down.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, football gods, please don't. Anyways, that wraps up today's podcast. Please don't forget to click that like button and subscribe on YouTube. Also follow us on Twitter at BoudreauxBrosFF, and also our personal handles at Marcel_BFF and at Derek_BFF. And please don't hesitate to reach out for questions and rankings and trades. Starts at, thanks, and see you next time.
See you.